Hello, Veronica, my dear. How are you?
Hello, Miss Elisa. I'm wonderful this spring. How are you? Itch.
Oh, great. It's really raining right outside. How's my boy doing? Hey, Erik, I love you.
He says, I love you too. He's very casual, very laid back today, not bouncing all over the room.
Well, that's good for you because you've had a busy day. You don't need a lot more energy pumped into your face. All right, before we start, I want to remind everybody we're trying to get this reality TV show, so I need my social media numbers up. So you guys, just write a note to yourself. Well, you're probably not as forgetful as I am. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and do whatever you can. And also check out Veronica Drake at veronicadrake.com. I will remind you afterwards too. Well, today, hopefully, Erik will bring in maybe a couple of the founding fathers. Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin. What do you think?
I think that we have a very good chance of that happening in all of my running around today, because I just found out last minute or just had it added to my schedule. So I did take a minute, sit with Erik so I could feel what their energy feels like when they come in. So I'll know when we have them. Okay. And Erik says, who would you like first?
I don't know. You pick, Erik.
He says, how about Ben?
Let's do Ben.
Okay. So it's like it's funny because Erik's saying you're going to get a fuzzy, tingly feeling. And I'm thinking to myself, like, electrocuted.
Yes. Oh, like Benjamin Franklin. I don't have any key on a string around me, so.
Yeah, no, I'm good. Okay, so I'm not sure. This is weird. There's an energy here, and he's got, I don't know if it's like one leg shorter than the other, but he looks like he's uneven.
Oh,
and
wow.
So Erik says, yes, he says that's him. Erik is telling me that he had special shoes. One leg was longer than the other. Not Erik, Ben.
Okay. Well, hello, Mr. Franklin. How are you doing?
He says, good day, good afternoon. He's very formal.
Well, thank you for our country.
Oh, he says, you're very welcome. He says, I always did the best I could.
Good. All right. Well, and you can bring in Thomas Jefferson, your big buddy, whenever you want. First of all, can you give us an assessment of how the United States is doing? And, we've got several questions and we want to get Veronica off early. So just, I don't know if you're very chatty or not, but if you could just be as succinct as possible, I would appreciate it. But you're the boss, so we can always do two parts.
So the first thing he's saying is it's a bit of a mess. We might call it a cesspool, he says. But he's also saying that everything old must break down before we can build everything new.
I am seeing things being broken down. I really am. And, everybody thinks, oh, that's horrible, the divisiveness of this, the chaos. But, you're saying, and I've believed this, that is necessary. Stir up the shit so that you can bring in the new.
Well, he says, how can you operate with old and new? He says there has to be one cohesive direction, and he says there is not one cohesive direction, but once both, and he's saying both sides break down, they'll become a level playing field, and then it's time to rebuild.
Yes, I think all sides need to, break down. I am not a Republican, not a Democrat. I guess I would call myself a libertarian or a constitutional conservative. What do you think your political affiliation would have been? Now, I mean, you didn't have labels back then, but what would have been if you were in this world now?
He's saying that it wouldn't be a Republican or a Democrat as we know it. It would be for the common good of all. And he's also saying that things got out of hand because each person didn't pull their own weight. He's saying everybody felt like their way was better. And he said there was an imbalance in power for many, 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 many years. And he said there continues to be this. He's also saying that structurally, there needs to be no sides. There needs to be unity.
Absolutely.
The unity, he says, needs to be for the greater good, the common good.
Yeah, I guess my ideology is just common sense and whatever's for the greatest good.
Mm-hmm. But he's saying people get too caught up on labels, and then before you know it, the definition of those labels becomes self-serving.
Exactly. I think the problem has been with politicians is they become career politicians on both sides, and their ego has gotten in the way, and they are greedy, and they try to buy votes instead of just doing what's right for the people, etc. But what do I know? Maybe I'm wrong. What do you think?
He's saying back when it all began, it was really a moral foundation. They were actually trying to build on a moralistic foundation, on not a religious foundation, but an all-encompassing foundation that all was one. Everybody is one people.
Well, maybe that's because you guys were fighting as a unit, or I don't want to say fighting, but against the British, right?
Mm-hmm.
For your collective reason for being was freedom.
Well, and he's saying that, yes, that was true. And he said humans will always find themselves fighting. It's the human way.
Yeah, too bad. Those dang egos. But, we learn from every fight. We learn what not to do most of the time.
We hope so.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for us and our leaders right now? Something simple.
Yeah, he's saying that we need to, in this case, he's saying it's okay to look in the rear view mirror, look back, he says, and look at what this country was built on and what it was defined by.
Yeah.
And when you go back to the pureness of that, he says, and people truly believe it and embrace it, you will see a shift. He said the economy is lopsided, and that there's too much give me, give me, give me, and not enough I'll do it, I'll do it, I'll do it.
Right. Are you saying that there's a huge entitlement class?
Absolutely, that's what he's saying.
So what do you think caused that?
Greed.
I think it's vote buying on the part of our politicians.
He says greed.
This free and greed on the other side, but the givers, the so sweet to give away our taxpayer money, they're just pretty much buying votes. We'll promise you this if you vote for me. We'll promise you that, and it's on all sides. Is that part of it?
He said that's human nature, my dear.
I know, but I don't like it.
He said, and there's really been nothing to go against the grain. Everybody's come out with a very self-serving agenda. While it looks so well and good on the outside, once you peel down the layers to it, you find that there's always entitlement underneath.
No, it's like JFK said, do not what your country, what is it?
Not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country.
Yes, and there's so little of that now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's called the Titler effect. The tax recipients are getting higher and higher, huge percentage compared to the tax payers. And eventually that's going to tip.
He's also saying it's not like it was different in his day. It was only different in the sense challenges were different, and what has added to the significance of the challenges in this time is the public and the public is so connected through your systems of entertainment, he's saying.
Yes.
And he's saying the people who produce these segments and write these pieces also are part of the problem.
In what way? Are you talking about the media? You're talking about the media?
It's the game of who has the most money, who can talk the loudest, and that's what gets the most drive, he says.
Oh. So what do you think about the current news media?
He says it's atrocious. And he's telling me, and again, I'm not a political person, so don't shoot the messenger here, but he's telling me that he was a publicist, a print person, where he was a mouthpiece where he would go out and he would put the news media or the news out to the people. But he's saying when he did it, he's saying, even I could only tell the story through the lenses that I could see it with.
Yeah.
It's just human nature.
Are you saying that the media on right and left side have an agenda now?
Mm-hmm. He says absolutely.
Why?
And
What do they want?
He's saying it all swirls around making money and getting power.
Horrible. It's overrated, man. Money and power are so overrated. So what do you think we should do with the media? We obviously can't censor them, but surely there needs to be a code of ethics. Like, you cannot knowingly air something that's absolutely false and then put a little retraction in fine print, when they admit that it's false.
But he says, what if we turn it back around and we strengthen our race? And we strengthen them in such a way that they're built up to have opinions that are solidly formed and constructed on moral ground.
You mean the people, the citizenry?
Yes.
And so they should have their own, news channel, but without getting any money for it, but just a way to vent and express. Is that what you're saying, or what?
Talking about belief systems, because it seems very easy, he says, to just say anything and to have it be bought, to have it mean something. But words, he's saying, and he said he was in the business of words. Words don't mean anything without action.
Yeah.
And this country has gotten off course with the basic moral principles.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, now you'd be horrified. We can't say the Pledge of Allegiance in class. Now we have not freedom of religion, we have freedom from religion. So, and we were built as a Judeo-Christian.
Right. And he's also saying that even when he was at the height of bridging or forging this country, it never really was religion per se with him. He's saying it was the principles that the religion was built on: love, faith, courage, hope.
Right.
Mm-hmm. He's saying, in fact, while he was raised to be a godly man, it was rare in the day that he would attend a service, a formal church service. But every Sunday, he did his own type of church service. That was his day, he says to me, that he reserved for sharing his opinions. And so he's kind of writing like this. And so perhaps he did something on Sundays, but he said he always paid respect to the Creator, to the God.
Well, that's awesome. Erik, I want to ask a question of Thomas Jefferson. Do you think you can sneak him in here?
So he's been here just kind of casually sitting here. He looks to be a very tall, thin man, where Franklin was kind of stout.
Okay. Well, Mr. Jefferson, uh, what do you think about the Constitution now?
He says um, it's become a mockery.
What do you think we should have stuck with the original, except we should have added the freedom of the slaves, obviously, and amendments for voting rights for women.
Mhm.
But what do you think about? Are you do you still think it should be as you wrote it? You guys.
He says, yes, that was the core. He says, what happens though is he understands that as time progresses and as society progresses, we will always see changes. And he said, changes are not always bad.
Oh
He
yeah.
said, for example, letting the women vote, the amendments, that kind of thing. He's saying it was a hindsight. It wasn't known. There wasn't the intellect.
Yeah.
And as we progress as a whole, the intellect, he said, and he's saying, should expand. However, it seems that the intellect is not expanding, it's getting ridiculously low.
Okay. Well,
I think he just scolded us.
yeah. I kind of believe that it shouldn't be a completely living, changeable constitution, because then you're really at a risk of people make, using the changing it for their own political gain. For example, there's talk about wanting to get rid of the electoral college, and if that happens, then the people picking the president would be Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago, New Jersey, pretty much. And the flyover states would
He's
really.
saying no. No, that should not happen. He said that's not how it was created.
Yeah,
He said the outline, the framework should be honored.
yeah, I agree.
But
Uh,
also, he's saying issues that concern human dignity are what should be looked at.
yes. Oh, for example, giving freedom to slaves and giving the right to vote to women, things like that.
Absolutely, absolutely. He's also saying that things have run amok
Yeah,
with people coming into this country and kind of not knowing their place. They're his words, not knowing their place.
what do you mean? Are you talking about illegal immigration?
Mhm. Um, he's saying he's saying that it's not that everybody shouldn't be welcomed, because that is what this country was founded on. I was in agreement of that. He said what has happened though is everyone that has been put in charge to police it has kind of turned a blind eye because it is so big and it is so hard to deal with. He
Yeah.
said people are slipping through the cracks, and he's saying no pun intended.
Uh, so you believe that we should not have open borders and let anybody come in?
He's saying that it needs to happen in a systematic way. And he's also saying that the answer will not be as simple as people think it is, but he's proposing something like, if I understand what he's saying, a lottery.
Okay. Well, there is a visa lottery, but
Um,
I think first of all, whoever's speaking here, or both of you guys, that we should make it easier for people to immigrate legally, because it's very difficult, slow, and expensive. But I also believe, and I want your thoughts on this, that we should have the right to have the kind of people in our country that we need, not just people who are instantly going to go on welfare, who have nothing to offer to our country, etc., unless it's an asylum thing. But so I believe not in chain migration, but in merit-based immigration. Well, do you agree, or you? disagree with you.
So Jefferson says that everybody that comes in should add to the whole, and that every individual needs to pick up their part and add to the whole. And adding to the whole means making this country what it was supposed to be.
Right. For example, we probably still need nurses. That would be a wonderful immigrant to have and welcome into our country. And of course, those who are seeking asylum. Um, but I have a feeling that a lot of the people who are coming in right now are using the whole asylum thing as a ruse to try to slip into the country and get lost within it. What do you think?
Mhm. So Ben Franklin is saying that it's funny because he's very like stout and he's got the leg thing and he's doing this a lot. So I kind of see him over here and he's got like a bigger face. But he's saying that why did we go so far away from what wasn't broken? I don't know what that means.
Can you explain?
It was written the way it should have been. This country got to be what it was because everybody brought something to the table.
Yes.
This cannot be a place where you come because you are looking for something. It must be the place you come because you feel you are willing to add value to what is already existing.
Amen, brother. Yeah, I mean, come in with a contribution.
Mm.
What rights should illegal aliens have? Should they have the right to vote while they're illegal, right? To Social Security, to education, to healthcare, all those things?
They're both looking at each other like, no, why would we do that?
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, just we can't get rid of them. I mean, we can't deport them all. That'd be horrible and difficult, and if not impossible. So
Well,
what?
Erik is saying, Mom, you have to remember the mentality that you're dealing with, where they came from, what their thoughts were, what their thought process was.
Yeah, and
You know, and they are the founding fathers, you know.
oh yeah,
And so he's saying with that, you know, they're very adamant about Erik saying the contract. I think he means the Constitution, to be honored and upheld. But the other thing that Mr. Jefferson is saying is that it really is in the best interest of all countries, of the entire world, that people become educated. There needs to be a solid educational program for anyone who's going to enter this country that has not had the opportunity. But then it goes back, Ben says, people in this country, of this country, do not get education. So therein lies the issue. We're bringing more of what's not working.
oh gosh, I know it seems like there's more interest in helping illegal aliens than the homeless vets that are on the streets now that fought for our freedom. But so what should we do with all the illegals? Some of them are just hardworking,
Mhm.
God-fearing, whatever.
Obviously,
Well, most of them are.
obviously they're human beings. You don't rally them in and throw them away, he says.
Yeah, of course not.
It's going to take probably more time than you will ever see in your lifetime. He's talking about you and I, to get this ship uprighted.
Yeah.
He's saying it's like we've capsized, we've gone over, and it's not going to be on the shoulders of any one person. It is impossible to think any one person can do this. It doesn't work like that.
Well, what should we do right now with this huge migrant crisis of caravans coming in? Sometimes shielding themselves with children, sometimes bring sex traffickers, drug traffickers, etc., coming in. What should we do? And they're all saying, most of them are saying they are seeking asylum, and so they get, processed and released into the country. What should we do?
He's saying you're asking for an answer from us that nobody, no human can figure out right now. We don't have the answer.
Okay.
If we had the answer, if there was an answer, he's indicating that there really isn't an answer now. If there was an answer, we would be stepping up and putting it in the minds and hearts of those in charge. The problem is no one's going deep. They're all looking out for their own well-being. Nobody is turning back to source and asking for direction.
We should. I think the
It's
left.
a man-made situation.
And I think the left, and don't shoot me, guys, they seem to want open borders because they want to import future voters. That's just my opinion,
But he's saying you cannot have open borders. Now, back in the day, obviously, it was policed differently because it was differently. Geographically, it was differently. Size-wise, it was different. All of that. He said what happened is there was no active progression. And this is Thomas Jefferson, and he's very adamant and upset. There was no obvious progression in systems. As the country grew, your system stayed antiquated. You did nothing to keep up with the pace of growth.
Yes.
Because it wasn't a lucrative agenda. He's adamant about this.
It's all about the money. Well, what do you think about barriers and walls and the places we can build them, but then have a port of golden doors, Trump says, to let people in legally, and those that are in a merit-based way, and having people seek asylum in the embassy of their country or in the country bordering theirs. To asylum, that they don't need to go through several countries to get to us. That is because they want the American dream. But I think we're enabling people by accepting everybody because they should stay and fight for the welfare of their country.
And this is something he's saying. How did it work with Ellis Island?
I know that was the golden door. It come through. Awesome.
Right. He said, case in point, you lost your way. You didn't. He's saying, like the parent that doesn't stay on top of the child eventually learns the parent's not looking, and the child goes and does whatever it wants to do. This is what has happened.
What do you think about sanctuary cities?
So he wants to say that it seems like a very simple solution to empower the embassies within their home countries. And that seems like a place where it would start. If someone feels threatened in their own country, they have a place. They have a place to go there. There are embassies to go there. Why is it overlooked? He's asking. Why is it overlooked?
I don't know. It's a simple way to separate those who are true asylum seekers from those who want a piece of the American pie.
Well, and the American pie is shrinking. And it's getting a little bit more sour with every single bite.
I know. It costs a lot of money to have illegal aliens here. $70,000 a year, from what I understand. You can build a lot of wall with that.
It's a slippery slope whenever and this is Veronica, not them. It's a very slippery slope whenever we start to talk about human rights and caring for humans and government. And, it's like you can go down that slope really quick, but the bottom line is and again, Veronica, not them, I don't care, send me emails. If we don't have the money to appropriately pay
Yeah,
for those in all capacity, why in God's name would we let them in?
I wish we had all the money in the world to help everybody in the world, but
Of course, but we don't.
And there's only so much you can get out of the super wealthy, me not being one of them. Because then if you start squeezing them too hard, they're going to take their ass and leave to another country, just like the corporations. When you jack up their they leave. They go to Ireland and set up shop or whatever.
Erik says they just put their money somewhere outside this country and somebody else just gets more wealthy, he says.
Right. And also, not only that, if they do stay here, they're not going to absorb the cost of the tax increase. They're going to pass it on to their consumers. So it's really just a way to really foster envy and jealousy. I hate the big bad corporations, even though they give us millions of jobs. Mm-hmm. All right, well, I'm talking. I shouldn't be talking. I want to know, what was the question? What are our rights? Are they just those stated in the Constitution, or should we have a minimum living wage? Should we have the God-given right to health care, to education, or are these just opportunities rather than rights?
The very first thing he said was, that's a right that you earn. They're opportunities.
Which one? All of those that I said?
All of them. He's saying they're all opportunities.
So what are our rights? What do you call it? Liberty, something in the pursuit of happiness?
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
That's it?
That's what he said. That's what Ben Franklin just said to me. He said everything is included under that. Everything else becomes an umbrella, a byproduct.
Including the Bill of Rights, like the freedom of speech and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you think there is a deep state and the global elite?
Both of them are in agreement that we don't think so. We think this is some conspiracy.
Okay. Well, the global elite, from what I understand, is this oligarchy of big bankers, big pharma, academia, the media, a bunch of career politicians that really feel like they want this new world order, open borders, decrease in population, and things like that. And they have this conference in Bilderberg or something like that.
He said it's more to build hype and conspiracy and theory. I wanted to say fear. Okay. It's more to build fear. He said, yes, people's pockets are getting lined. Yes, people with money get to have a bigger voice. But he said it's not going to be the end of the country as we know it. And that's what people are fearful of.
All right. So it's not some group that's conspiring against us, although they are each thing, like big pharma is doing some bad stuff, and corrupt politicians, career politicians are doing some bad stuff. Academia is brainwashing, some of our kids.
But they're not doing it as a whole, they're saying.
Oh, I got you. That makes sense. So what do you think about academia and the way they are? What do you think they're doing, more harm than good or more good than harm in educating our children?
So Ben Franklin has stepped forward, and he said back when he was going to school, it was very difficult for him to afford an education. Mm. And he wasn't afforded an education in the sense that it was an elite education. Okay. So he understands the trials of not being able to afford an education, and he's saying everything is proportional to the times. So if you would look at his time with the money allocated or the money there and the systems that we're going through, it's proportional to what we have now. But he's saying greed has run rampant in academia.
By whom? The administration or?
Yes, by the administration And, you know, Erik says, case in point, when they pay to get their kids into
yeah.
college because they can.
Oh gosh. Mm. Well, what do you think about the professors, especially in some of these Ivy League schools?
Erik says they're pawns in the game.
Oh my goodness. Well,
It's really the higher ups, Erik says. And again, it's like Erik is showing me like a chess match. You know, it's like, okay, my move, and then I'll sit back and I'll counter your move. And he said it's a very methodical game from the uppers.
So Berkeley was the birthplace of free speech, the Bill of Rights. But now it seems like they and other colleges will not allow anybody to speak on their campus unless they are of the same opinion. Mm-hmm. And many people have been beat up because of that. And there have been riots and stuff. What do you
Erik goes like this: puppets, 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 puppets. Their strings are being pulled. He's singing it because people won't get money if they go against them.
Oh my gosh.
What Erik's doing? He's doing the puppeteer thing.
Oh my gosh. So
he said it's sickening.
You know, I love looking at all sides. I look at the liberal, the conservative, and all that, and I've learned so much, but it's so silly. What do you think about George Soros? Is he paying people to protest against conservative views and paying people to march to say they would rather have Maduro lead our country, or is that just a bunch of bull?
He's saying, he being Thomas Jefferson, is saying there's a grain of truth to that man. A grain.
Okay.
So
And what grain is that?
Erik goes, that he believes he's right.
Good. At least he's confident.
Yeah, exactly. That he believes he's right. I don't know. But the grain of truth, you know, Erik is also chiming in saying, wouldn't it be funny if he just came in and everything just went and flipped over and it all changed?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anything's possible, but probably not that.
Right. Well, okay, so what do you think about the future of capitalism versus socialism? First of all, do you think socialism would work? Does it extrapolate well in a large heterogeneous population like ours?
It's funny because Erik sat back and said, this will be good.
Uh-oh. Oh, my God.
This country was built on doing.
Okay. Individual responsibility, taking care of yourself, helping take care of your country, helping take care of your neighbors, things like that.
These two are standing tall and they're saying this country was built by people who were virtuous, who wanted to do, who wanted to add to the value of this country.
Now people want to get.
Right. And again, I'm just the messenger.
You know.
Every individual has the opportunity.
Yes, of course.
Period. But Erik is saying, well, let's play the other side.
Yeah.
What if you don't have the opportunity? What if you come from a less than thriving socioeconomic background? What if you don't have the means? Erik is asking this question.
Right.
And so
there are ways to help them.
And so the guys are saying that it's really about the foundation that someone is built on. And so again, if the principles were honored of love, honor, courage, God, respect, he said, you would not have this perpetual cycle of poor me.
Yeah, that's too bad. Do you believe the government is more capable of taking care of us than we are, or more of a local government? system?
Both of them are saying this. No. You can't put that all on the government. You think the government's broke now.
Oh, God.
That's what they said.
Well, what do you think about sanctuary cities? I forgot if you answered that or not.
In theory, it seems like a good idea, but it doesn't make sense.
Okay.
It just doesn't seem like it's absolutely feasible.
Well, I mean, allowing felons.
I don't know what sanctuary city is
Oh,
or whatever that is.
allowing illegal aliens that have felonies to be protected from deportation in certain cities or states as a whole.
Oh, well then, yeah, I don't know. They just gave you their answer. I'm a political idiot.
Yeah. No.
Sorry.
So what do you think, Benjamin or Thomas? I hate to call you by your first names, but anyway, I just did. So it's feasible, and I think we should. Are you saying we should give sanctuary to some people, but not? I mean, tell me what you mean.
There has to be a litmus test. There has to be a benchmark. And this is where, if you had the right players who would play nice together, get a benchmark. He says, you people, and he's saying, you people can't even talk to each other.
I know.
He's yelling. I mean,
listen, unless they have our same opinion. Most people are like, I'm not going to listen to you because you don't, you're not a such and such party or whatever it's said. Right.
And this country was founded on everybody bringing something different to the proverbial table.
No. All right, real quickly, these are almost like yes and no questions. Should we pay reparations to African Americans and Native Americans?
No.
Okay, I'm going to tell you what I think about the professional poor class that the blacks have become. It's our fault. It's terrible what we've done with the Great Society. Was it the New Deal or Great Society? Pretty much changing them from one plantation to the next, making sure they're constantly enslaved with government handouts. And so all of a sudden the father became the Social Security check instead of a real father. I mean, am I wrong in that? I think we owe a debt of, I don't know, something to what we have done.
A lot of disgusting things have happened over the course of time, but you can't make things right with money.
Oh, no. Well, what can we do to help? I think that we're talking about how people can't afford education, whatever. We can offer scholarships. We can give tax incentives to corporations to give them apprenticeships. There's all sorts of things that can be done that gets the government kind of out of it as the main.
Mm-hmm. He's saying the bottom line is when anybody can help anybody, they should. And when it adds, and they keep stressing this, when it adds to the greater good.
Yep, that's all that matters. Yeah, so if the government doesn't help so much, then maybe we, the individual, will step up to the plate and start helping these people that can't help. At least give them a hand up, not a handout, but a hand up. Like that one where the lady got that football player, what's it called? It's a true story, and adopted him and stuff. I can't remember, but
yeah,
we can all help somebody. All right, real quickly, do you believe in the Green New Deal? That that we should have no more farting cows, no more combustion engines. I can't remember what else. Fossil fuels gone, cars gone, airlines gone.
That doesn't seem very practical in your world. It's just not something that's feasible. Are there measures you can take? Absolutely. Is that a practical step? No. He says it's not about going backwards. And you would definitely be going backwards with that. You need to be more efficient with what you do.
Yeah, maybe fission or fusion, I can't remember. Maybe be more solar. There's all sorts of things we can do.
Mhm.
Should we lower the voting age to 16?
No.
Yeah, I don't think they haven't even taken government classes by then.
They just said no real quick.
Okay. Should we add more justices to the Supreme Court as the Democrats want?
To what end?
I don't know. Maybe either side, whether it's the Republicans or Democrats, they want just more justices that either are on their side or the other side.
Still, they're going to do this, he says, no matter what. He says, to what end? Leave it be.
Okay. What do you think? Do you think we should continue investigating our president, even though the Mueller thing is done, or should we keep going on with these investigations?
Thomas Jefferson is saying the investigation is a deterrent. It's to take the eyes off of what is truly happening in this country. It's taking the eyes off of what really needs to change. Forget who your leader is. It's not about the leader.
So what are they trying to keep our eyes off of?
All the corruption, he's saying, all of everybody's hands in everybody's pocket, everybody's in bed with everybody, everybody's doing this. He says, what's happening right now is precisely what needs to happen. Shit needs to be shaken up, because if you're going to change status quo, he says, we said this as we opened with you, if you're going to change status quo, you've got to break the old down.
Yeah, I agree. Let's see, what was I going to say? Something, dang it. All right, what do you think about, it'll come to me, the push to the left that we're going, especially with millennials. So many of them want socialism, they have disdain for capitalism, but this rise in the desire for socialism, well, what's going on? And is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It's about wanting somebody to take care of you. It's about putting the responsibility someplace else other than on oneself.
Hey, there ain't no free lunch, people.
Right. If you want it, you work for it. Thomas Jefferson is pointing out people that come to this country that do the jobs that no American would touch.
We need to learn from them.
Right. That's something that you should take those people and put them in your academic structures.
What do you mean, as professors or students?
As teaching how it's done from grassroots. You have people that come here that don't even speak your language and are living better than people born with everything.
Because they're working their ass off.
It's work ethic.
Well,
what if the person who came in opened the business at 4 a.m. and closed the business at 10 a.m. all by themselves with family helping? What if they were to go teach how this was done? It would be decidedly different than curriculums that were handed down from people with something to gain.
Well, that's true. And a lot of the professors, they really have not, most of them have not really lived in the
real world.
Yeah, so they do have this cradle to grave liberal mentality, and I think the way we've raised kids recently, we've turned them into snowflakes. We've overprotected them. We've protected them from frustration, so they're all afraid to live in the adult world and produce and support themselves,
And they don't give time for anything to stick and mature.
Yeah.
They just hop on and move on. But Ben Franklin is also saying a lot of your companies that are founded by these youngsters, as he's calling him, are built because of their blood, sweat, and tears, because they start at 16 years old as geniuses and build these tech companies.
That's true. It's absolutely amazing. Do you believe in term limits for politicians?
Absolutely.
Me too.
Everything gets old and worn.
Yeah, and then I don't want people to stay in power and then they change their policies based on what's going to keep them in power. Even though it's not good for the for the country.
Fresh blood.
Do you think we should further increase taxes on the wealthy and on corporations, or will they all leave?
He's saying it's not about increasing taxes. It's about allocation, delegation, knowing what goes where, what makes sense. He said we, and he's saying we as the human, us, have become gluttonous in every way possible. But Ben Franklin jumps in to say it's all proportional.
Yeah, that's right. Who do you think has been the best president in the last 50 years? And who's been the one that's maybe caused the most harm? Or 100 years, I don't care.
Your Kennedy had something pretty brilliant to say.
Yeah, I like it.
But we see what happened.
Yeah.
He's indicating that the best thing to come out of the Ford administration was Betty Ford.
Oh, okay. All right, I know y'all don't want to answer this. Oh, whatever. What should our foreign policy, I'm almost finished. What should our foreign policy be in general? Any advice as far as foreign policy is concerned?
Yeah, play nice. Don't get the big guns out.
Yeah.
That's Erik. That was Erik, by the way.
Yeah.
Being a smart ass. He said foreign policy, this is Thomas Jefferson, foreign policy is way too big to talk about on a 20-minute show, he said. We don't have the answers.
So diplomacy when possible and sanctions when, well, okay, we won't do it.
Of course, but he's saying, been there, done that, but no one listens.
Nobody listens, I know. So what are our biggest dangers? And then I have one more.
Our biggest dangers?
Yeah. For the future of our country, our government.
So Ben Franklin says ideology, the lack of ideology.
Well, although Trump talks like a third grader, his ideology is common sense, and maybe he doesn't always get it right, but that would be my ideology. Common sense for the greater good.
Mm-hmm.
What would yours?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Any last, and this is it, any last words of advice for us?
Why don't we try not to separate church and state? Why don't we see how that goes?
Yeah.
Why don't we see how
freedom from religion, not freedom of religion? But then you have to honor all religions, though. That's not. But we could.
And he says, and
that's fine. We could do it.
And
yeah,
all paths lead to the same place. Wars are fought because you think yours is better than mine, and I think mine is better than yours. When in reality, if we just created an even playing field, what war would we fight?
Honor all religions.
Of course.
Almost all of them pretty much say the same thing.
We're all going, unless the ones that says chew your left arm off. I mean, no one wants that religion. I mean, the hell.
And yeah, I mean, just love is all there is. Be good, man. Just be a good person. Be good to your brothers and sisters.
Absolutely. And honor the God within. Whatever you define God as, honor the God within, Ben says.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming and for helping create this country. Let's hope that, just undo all your good work. And thank you, Erik, for bringing them in, sweetie. I love you.
I love you too, Mama.
Also, I want you guys to check out Veronica Drake. You see how good she is. Come on. VeronicaDrake.com. And I'll put it here. Plus, when you finish, please subscribe to the YouTube if you haven't already. Please follow me on Instagram and Twitter. And what else? I don't know.
Facebook, YouTube.
Facebook. Yeah, like the Facebook Channeling Erik page. And all right, I love you all. Bye. Love you, Veronica.
I love you. Bye-bye.
Bye.